Hi, Giovanni. How are you?
I'm doing good, Rumi. Nice to meet you finally.
Nice to meet you too. So I'm very, very happy that you agreed to do this with me today. And I know we're going to have a very interesting conversation. We'll be talking about public speaking, which is something that I very much enjoy. So let's start off by you introducing a little bit about yourself and tell us what you do. Tell us a little bit about your passion for public speaking.
Okay, sure. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Jovanni Bello. I live in Miami, Florida. I've lived in Miami most of my life, except for times that I've gone to Europe for different things. Um, to say who I am is interesting because I am a number of things. People have called me a Renaissance man because I'm always trying new stuff. So growing up, I was always a creative person. I went to art school. I've written books. I started writing my first book when I was 9 years old. So I've always been really into doing creative things. Now, I have multiple degrees. I went to the University of Miami. I have degrees in computer information systems, network technologies, a master's in business administration, and a degree in creative writing. So aside from that, that's just kind of like the educational things. But also, I love traveling. I love to travel. I try to at least take two big trips a year, and I've gone to just about every continent so far, except for Australia and Antarctica.
Okay.
And I'm hoping to get to those two at some point. Even my daughter this morning goes, "Papa, can we go to Antarctica?" Because she's learning about the Arctic at school, so she wants to go to Antarctica.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I love to cook. I love all sorts of cuisine. I from Chinese, Italian, Hispanic, Irish. I love to cook all sorts of stuff, even Indian food. I love to cook as well. In terms
Mhm.
of business, I've worked as an analyst for a long time, but for the last 15 years, I've been an independent IT consultant and primarily focused in on medical practices and law firms. I have a couple of other clients that I do work for, but those are the primary clients that I work for are medical practices and law firms. And in terms of public speaking, I've been public speaking since I was 9 years old. And I
Wow.
started public speaking in my congregation. So in my congregation, I started speaking in front of an audience very early. And that translated to me giving presentations and speaking whenever I could at school. So I would give presentations, I would do book reports, I would always try to get up in front of an audience to speak. Even right after high school, I got into stand up comedy. So I'd go to comedy clubs and I would do stand up sets. So as long as I can get in front of an audience to talk, that's what I was always doing. And then
Mhm.
eventually, once I was in the college setting, I was the youngest adjunct professor at Miami-Dade College, which is a local community college here in Miami. But I was teaching classes at the age of 20. So I've always been in front of people. And that's kind of what started my public speaking journey. It's always been since I was 9 years old in the congregation, to going to school, to teaching, to comedy. That's what's gotten me into in front of people.
Nice. You do have a lot of things. You do have a very interesting story. So let's talk a little bit about more about public speaking, because you said you started when you were 9 years old, but what did you do to become a better public speaker? Did you use any particular resources? Did you take some coaching lessons? What did you do?
Sure. So part of being in the congregation at 9 years old is there's training within the congregation to become a better speaker. But on top of that, as I got older, I realized that there were things that I wanted to get better at myself. So what I ended up doing is I started going into books. One of the most famous books is a series by Dale Carnegie. So I started
Uh-huh.
reading Dale Carnegie and his books on public speaking. But one of the things that really impacted me the most wasn't so much the reading of books, but it was watching very good public speakers and then trying to imitate them. So I would go and I would see a great speaker on YouTube, or I would watch somebody live speaking, and then I would go home and then I would record myself trying to speak like that person. The only danger that I recognize later on is that when you imitate somebody, you kind of suppress your own personality. So for a long time, I had to unlearn some of those
Mm.
things to allow my personality to come out. But that really helped, is to see what really good speakers were doing and then trying to adapt their methods to myself. So things like hand gestures, the way to ask questions, the way to summarize things, how to do an effective introduction. These are things that I learned by looking at really experienced people first. And then, of course, it's putting it in practice. So I would record myself, try to get better, but it was getting in front of people that was all the difference for me.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I can, just getting in front of people.
Mm-hmm. And what did you watch particularly? Did you watch TED Talks and then you try to imitate the speakers, or did you watch anything in particular? Was it like watching your professor, for instance, and try to imitate a little bit what they did?
Yeah, so it was a number of things. It was watching people within the congregation itself that were great speakers. I mean, but not everybody's a part of my congregation, so they can't follow that. But it was my really good college professors that I had that I would focus in on what they were doing. It was also TED Talks.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with TED Talks is that a lot of TED Talks seem to have the same format, the same cadence. A lot of TED Talk speakers speak the same. So we just went on YouTube and just put up public speaking, and whatever was coming out, that's what I would start watching. So it wasn't just TED Talks. TED Talks are fantastic, really
Mm-hmm.
good resource, but it was
Mm-hmm.
being able to watch other speakers. Also, I would invest a little bit here and there in different courses like Udemy.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then there's also like the classic, like it's called the class, I believe it's called like the classic lectures,
Okay.
that it's really well-renowned professors who are at the top of their fields giving lectures. So I would watch them speak. So it's not just TED Talks, but it's trying to grab a little bit of everything.
Uh-huh. Interesting. And how long did it take you to be, a very good speaker? Did it take you a lot of years? I mean, you started at 9 years old. I don't know if by 20 you were like a great speaker.
Yeah, I started really early, but I didn't really take it seriously
Okay.
until I was in my late teens and early 20s. That's when I really started focusing in. And it took me a few years. Even now, I wouldn't say that I'm just the most amazing speaker, because I think that there's always room for us to grow. If
Mm-hmm.
we ever think I'm a great speaker, I'm fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
then I think that a lot of people will have the idea like, oh, I don't need to work anymore.
Right.
So even now, I look at really good speakers and I think, okay, how can I implement? I really like the way that they did this one thing. How can I use that for myself? So I'm always working on it. So I've been at it. I'm 40 years old now. So I've been at it for like, let's say in my adult life, 20 years, still working on it, and I'll continue working on it.
Yeah, I do agree. There is always room for improvement. In talking about your journey with public speaking, I know you have a YouTube channel. That's where I found you, and I was watching some of your tips because I am part of those masters, and I use some of your tips to share them to my club. And so I wanted to know a little bit about how you came up with public speaking and not public speaking, how you came up with this YouTube channel. And also, one of the biggest fear that people face is really the fear of public speaking. So, do you have anything that you can share in terms of that?
Sure, sure. So for me, one of the reasons why I started this YouTube channel, my Instagram, TikTok, and all that is because of what you said. One of the biggest fears that people have is public speaking. And one of the things that I got tired of, and I realized it also with my wife, is that whenever we would go to conferences or we would have to listen to some sort of presentation, it was so boring.
Mm.
It's just people who don't know how to speak and they're in positions of authority, and you have to listen to them because you are obligated to listen to them. But you don't want to, because they don't come off as interesting. They're not captivating at all. So I said, okay, I think there's a market here for people to understand very practical ways of public speaking. Because sure, you can go to Toastmasters, that takes time. You can go to different programs and courses, and that takes a lot of time. So what I ended up doing is, okay, how can I take what I consider the 15 key skills that a person can learn to be a good speaker? Not the most amazing speaker, but I could take somebody from, let's say, a level 1 or a level 2 to a level 7 or 8 in terms
Mhm.
of their speaking, just if they even just learn those 15 skills. So
Mhm.
that's what I wanted to do because I know that people are really busy. You're busy. I'm busy. A lot of us are busy. How can I teach people public speaking in a very short amount of time? And that's what I ended up doing. And you're absolutely right. The fear of public speaking is a big one. So how do I help people to get over that fear? And it's two things. It's mindset
Mm.
and then it's skill set. So
Mhm.
when I talk about mindset, one of the first things that I teach my students is to understand what their scenario is. So where are they speaking? Is it in a comedy club? Is it at a bookstore? Is it at a conference room? Is it at a dinner party? How does that change the way that we speak? Are we
Mhm.
going to tell more jokes, less jokes? Is our voice going to be high or low? Are
Mhm.
we going to use different words? Because the way that we talk with friends is different to the way that we talk with colleagues.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind. Who is our audience? Is it executives? Is it peers? Is it family members or friends? That also changes the way that we speak. And then the most important one that helps with mindset is, what is your objective?
Mhm.
Is your objective to entertain people?
Mhm.
Is it to inspire them? Is it to motivate them? That that all changes. So when we put these three things together, that's what I call the scenario. And as students start to understand and start actually practicing understanding their scenario, it becomes second nature. It becomes really easy for a person to automatically just know, okay, this is my scenario. I know more or less what I need to do in this scenario. The other thing I talk about often in terms of mindset is learning how to put information into an outline form, on paper or mentally. So how can I take a lot of information and make it very concise in my head? So somebody might ask me a question. That's the first thing I do. I think of main point, sub point, sub point.
Mhm.
What's the theme? What's the objective? And that happens. I've done it so much that to me, it's almost instantaneous. But that's something that I teach students, is the mindset. And then on top of that is the skill set, because you can have it in your mind, but if you don't practice the mechanics, like how to use hand gestures, how to look at your audience when you're speaking to them, how to smile, how to
Yeah.
engage with an audience, it could all be in here, but if you don't do it, then it doesn't make sense. So that's how I help with the fear. I couple those two things, mindset and skill set. And unless a person has a medical condition, which some
Mhm.
do, they no
Yeah.
matter what they do, they get super nervous. They have to get beta blockers from a doctor. Unless the person has a medical condition, my method has helped a lot of people get over the fear of public speaking and be able to speak confidently.
Right. You definitely shared a lot of very good information. I think skill set is important and mindset is also very important. So if someone wants to give a speech and they want to give a great speech, what would be your top three tips that you would like to share?
Okay, top three tips. So if
Top
somebody told
three.
me I only have three things that I want you to
Yeah.
teach me, these would be the three things that I think I want every speaker to know. The first one, get out of your notes and look at your audience,
Hmm.
because so many times people are reading their speeches.
Yeah.
So you're not listening to a speech. You are watching somebody read a
Hmm.
speech, and that's
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah.
So get out of your notes and look at your audience. Look
Yeah.
at specific people in your audience. Have a conversation with them. Allow your personality to come out. And that your personality comes out when you detach yourself from your notes. When
Hmm.
you're reading, your personality doesn't come out as much. So that, for me, that's huge. That's tip number one. Number two is to use hand gestures. So you see that when I talk, I use a lot of hand gestures. That's engaging. When you see a speaker use hand gestures, it's really engaging. It's really interesting, because even if you are listening to their words,
Hmm.
by watching their hand gestures,
Hmm.
your brain is also processing that too.
Yeah.
So it's not just words, but it's actual motion. It's a physical presence. So if I describe something really big or something really small, or I'm really excited about something, you can see it, and
Yeah.
it's more engaging, it's more memorable to the people that are watching you. The third one, and it's something that I still struggle with sometimes, is modulating your voice. So how
Uh-huh.
do we modulate? So our volume, how high, how low, can we vary it as we talk? The next one is the pace. Do we speak very fast, very slow? can we change it depending on what we're saying? So if there's a lot of action, you want to talk very quickly. If you just want to get past information, you want to talk very quickly. But if something is very serious, if you really want people to focus, then you have to slow down. So changing that too. And then also changing the pitch. Sometimes you want to have a deeper voice, but sometimes you want to have a lighter voice, depending on what we're talking about. If it's very happy, you can have a lighter voice.
Yeah.
But if it's something very serious, you want to lower your pitch to make people understand that this is serious, that you are hitting like a main point right now. So modulating your voice. So those would be the three things. So number one, get out of your notes. Number two, use hand gestures. Number three, modulate your voice.
Wow, those were great tips. One last question that I do want to ask, and then we will conclude the conversation, is how to deal with impromptu speeches, because I think often we might be on the street, there is a journalist coming to us and asking a question, and we don't want to say, I don't know. What would be something that you would like to share? Because I know you talk about it a little bit on your YouTube channel, and I have used it as well. So maybe just talk very briefly about how to deal with impromptu speeches or mini speeches.
Okay. So you must be a celebrity, because I've never had a journalist come up to me and ask me questions.
No one came up to me.
So for me, in going and doing impromptu has to do with a number of things. It's what I described as having a mental outline. So whenever somebody asks me a question, that's the first thing I develop in my head. So what's my objective? Is it am I entertaining this person who wants something from me? Am I trying to educate them? Am I informing them about something? So the number one for me is the objective. Then what's the main point? And then any sub points that I want to talk about. So if it's a quick question, maybe just one main point, easy enough. I could do that fairly quickly. But it's the practice of it, that developing that ability to do mental outlines quickly, that really helps with impromptu speeches. The other thing that really has helped me over the years is having a repertoire of stories and anecdotes. So if we have stories and anecdotes that we can tell, it doesn't matter what people are talking about. If people want to talk about a certain subject, then have a story for that subject. Doesn't even need to be your own story. It maybe, oh, I heard this great story that somebody told me. And you can respond to that question. You can give information, but have a repertoire of stories, different things that you've experienced in your life that can be applicable to whatever it is that you're being asked. I have found that to be very helpful for me. And it's interesting because the third point that I had thought about when you told me about this question was not saying I don't know. But for me, sometimes being able to just say, I don't have the answer to that question, but let me get back to you.
Right.
To me is liberating. It's very freeing to be able to say, I don't know, but I can either get the answer for you, or can we think about the question in a different way? You asked me this one question, but maybe this other piece of information can still be helpful, even though I don't know this one thing 100%. So it's not a politician's pivot where they just don't answer the question, but the answer can be related to what that person's asking you. So those are the things that have helped me to help with impromptu and getting in front of people and experiencing it.
Yeah.
Just earlier this month on my Instagram channel, I did an Instagram live where I didn't prepare anything. I told the audience, shoot whatever question you have. Whatever you want to talk about, I'll talk about it, at least for 2-3 minutes. And the audience came and they asked me about different things. They asked me to talk about different stuff. But that practice really helps to get in a position where you have to think on your feet. You have to think on your toes. That helps.
Definitely. Well, all right. Thank you, Jovanni, for sharing all of this information.
My pleasure.
Before I let you go, I do have 5 rapid fire questions, and these are very rapid, so don't think too much on them. I don't need you to elaborate on them. I just use them to get to know a little bit my guest. So are you ready for this?
Okay, let's do it. This is interesting. All right, I'm excited.
Okay, so the first question is, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, telekinesis. Sure.
Okay. If animals could talk, which animal would it be? Which animal would be the funniest to have a conversation with?
Penguin.
Penguins, okay.
Right.
If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, tortilla chips.
Okay. And did anyone ask you all these questions before? Because you
No,
know them. Okay. Okay. All right. If you could have a celebrity as a friend, who would it be?
Taylor Swift.
All right. If your life was a movie, what would the title be? I did
Ooh,
ask a tough question, eh?
yeah, that's a good one because I've done so much stuff in my life that I'll probably say maybe just Renaissance Man.
Oh, there you go. There, that was easy.
Yeah.
Well, you have done really well in the rapid fire questions, and it was nice to.
Except for the Taylor Swift comment. I know that disappointed you a little bit, but
No, I'm not. I'm
she,
okay.
she
It's
she's in the news and
she's
uh,
literally everywhere, so
she's everywhere. And I've liked her music in the past.
that's fair enough. Well, thank you, Giovanni, for being here with me today. Before I let you go, do you want to tell us where people can find you and connect with you?
Sure. My Instagram is Elite Public Speaking. Same thing on TikTok, Elite Public Speaking, and on YouTube as well. So you can find me on any one of those channels. Send me a DM. My company is just me. So if you text or DM any one of those accounts, you got me. Also, I have a website, elitepublicspeaking.com, that people can reach out to if anybody wants to talk. I don't charge for initial consultation or anything like that. I love meeting new people, and I love seeing what people are doing with their public speaking, like yourself.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Giovanni, for being here with me.
Real quick, can I ask you one question?
Go ahead.
Because I saw that you lived in Italy
I
for
did.
a time, right?
Yes.
What's your favorite Italian dish? This is super important.
Pasta with pesto.
Okay. Do you have a pesto recipe?
No, I don't. I use the green one, the pesto genovese.
You do pre-made pesto? Come on.
I don't have time to make it. I don't have time to make it. So yeah, I always
But
choose the Barilla
uh,
the brand. Yeah.
yeah, that stuff is good for sure. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering that question.
Thank you. I was not expecting this, but thank you. All right, Giovanni, thank you for being here with me today. I will put all the description, all the links to your social media in the description below.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Nice
Bye.
talking to you. Bye.